Welcome back to the Music City Drive-In Podcast Network's production of This Film Not Rated, where we do not rate movies we watched, even ones that we love. We don't rate them. Is that a lie? Stick around and find out. The world seems to think there is an objective truth to a movie, so we're on a quest to find it. We travel through 15 questions, we try and stick objectively as possible, and when we fail, we're out. We talk more generally, we talk about movies we love, we're a couple of oddballs, we have our own takes on things, and hopefully you enjoy them. So, stick around with us, and you're invited to come and go through the gauntlet if you want sometime in the future. But you know what? Right now, I think we're excited to enjoy spooky season together. And by doing so, we're doing a very special episode today. And what franchise is that special episode about, Curtis? Don't cheat!
Don't you? I think it's kind of obvious. We're going through Halloween's 1 through 6 today. But for the gauntlet specifically, I'll be going through only Halloween 1, John Carpenter's Halloween, to be precise.
Yes. Sum that movie up for me.
John Carpenter's Halloween is about a boy who killed his mother, got locked up in a mental institution, and then the night before Halloween escaped, goes back to his hometown, and kills some babysitters. That's the movie.
So,
it's ridiculously simple, intentionally so. But we'll get more into that later.
Now, are you ready to have to be completely objective about John Carpenter's Halloween?
Hell no, but I'm gonna have to anyway.
So, Curtis, is Halloween a good movie or a bad movie?
Halloween, when it was first released in theaters, had a bunch of mixed receptions. One of its loudest advocates came from Roger Ebert, who helped it get along, but there were a lot of other critics at the time that either said it was an Albert Hitchcock ripoff, that it was good enough to become a cult to get cult status at some point. Later on, it gained more of a popularity to where a vast majority of people see it as a Halloween classic.
I want to take you down on vast majority, but because you got to know that that's within a certain community. You're saying people in general, but Jamie Lee Curtis herself will say people who show their kids Halloween are bad parents. Like, you know. But I am not taking you out on that because I'm just going to amend for people who are into horror movies. I think even that 1 in a million would not be able to pull evidence from the internet that a majority was not seeing Halloween as a Halloween classic. You made it through the first question. So, Curtis.
First time in how many episodes?
What is the best scene in Halloween?
Ooh.
You didn't think you'd make it this far, huh?
No, I didn't. There are 2 scenes that I can think of that people actively point to as standout moments.
What are they?
One scene is the opening shot where it's the POV shot of Kid Michael going through the house.
And the other one?
The other one is the ending shot where after Michael disappears, you're cutting to dark places in the house and around Haddonfield, showing that he's nowhere or could be anywhere.
Dude, you did it. So I've seen people also point to the beginning and ending. When I see people point to the ending, I hear them more go from when Michael sits up all the way through the ending. But I have seen what you're talking about. I have heard those remarks about the ending ones. And all you're saying is you've seen people call those the best scenes in the movie. So, hot damn, question 3. What would you edit out of Halloween?
So here's the interesting thing. Halloween is a very tightly written film.
Wait. I'm rooting for you here. You started with saying, here's the interesting thing. this being an interesting thing is a subjective thing. So be careful. You have already wrapped your continued sentence in subjectivity.
Start it off. Halloween has a very tightly written script and was equally tightly shot to the point where, when editing, there wasn't much, if anything, to actually cut because of the budgetary issues.
Oh. Okay. So, let me talk just a little bit about subjectivity. So, tightly written and tightly shot are arguable because we're talking about the content of the movie and should those shots have been as long as they were.
Okay.
But luckily, this doesn't matter because that wasn't an answer to the question I asked.
Mm-hmm.
What should be taken out? For example, the actress saying totally over and over again. Would maybe cutting one totally have changed people's opinion of that character?
I can't think of anything, if I'm being honest. Nothing's coming to mind.
Nothing is coming to mind that should be cut from the movie. I'll give you one of those. Who's the best actor?
There are several options here. You have Donald Pleasance, who's a veteran actor. But then you have Jamie Lee Curtis being introduced to the film industry in this role, and it's arguably the movie that got her a breakthrough, because after Halloween, she got into roles. I mean, she got known as a scream queen, being cast in roles like Prom Night and The Fog, another John Carpenter film. It wasn't until after Halloween 2 that she renounced the horror genre, saying that Halloween 2 was going to be her swan song, and moved on to bigger and better things.
None of this has to do with their acting.
I know. Those are the two standout performances that I can see.
I'm gonna buzz you.
That's fair.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Because
I got to question 4. That's a new record for me.
And this question, I have how I would get out of this.
Okay.
So much of the discourse around Halloween Ends is because of people being upset about how much they care about the Shape and Michael Myers. This being the first movie that birthed that passion. Nick Castle.
Okay. I can see that.
So,
but then you got people like Rich Evans who say that Michael Myers is just a creepy man that stalks around and he's not the interesting part of the film.
Right, but those three people also feel that evil is the interesting thing, not Michael Myers inherently.
Okay.
I'm saying the fact that Halloween Ends has a bunch of hate and discourse on it, instead of it just being like people saying like, the movie was or people, the movie was good, is because the amount of passion that people have for that icon and that character that doesn't exist without that performance.
Okay.
I'm saying that's how I would objectively allude to the idea that Nick Castle was the best performance.
All right. Fair enough.
Without saying it outright.
Fair enough.
So, look, all right, back to simple things. What was your first experience watching Halloween?
All right, so here's the thing. Halloween 1 was probably the third or fourth Halloween movie I actually saw. So I was like flipping through channels, came across H2O, which introduced me to Halloween. Then I think after that, played Halloween 4. I saw snips of Halloween 5, and until finally, my dad showed me Halloween 1. And my impression at the time was, this is pretty tame from what I remember seeing. So my first impression with Halloween 1 was, it's a fine movie, but where's the gore? Because I was an edgy teenager that wanted to see blood, gore, and nudity.
Yeah, right? The kids are going on over, is that the boogeyman, the legend of the boogeyman? And on the flip side, you have a man who's known Michael his whole life warning people. There's blackness in his eyes. It's evil. He's evil.
Yeah.
And for some reason in my head, I'm just sitting here thinking like, oh, it's just a crazy dude that escaped from an asylum. So he's got a wire crossed. When things make him horny, he just gets angry instead of horny.
Oh,
he kills people.
No, like dead on. Like dead on. That's like in interviews that I've read in Taking Shape. A lot of people thought that Halloween was a overly conservative message about the ills of premarital sex, and that's why people die. But John Carpenter said has stated over and over again, if you think there's a moral message here, you're just wrong. If anything,
seriously, like I don't know those sorts of things, those half-baked sorts of things. I know we're gonna give you a buzzer that is the buzzer that shuts Eric up. We're working on it, folks. So, but I'm just gonna say, for people who do that to this day, that go so far as to say, "Oh, it's a message about sex is like wrong, premarital sex is wrong."
Mm-hmm.
The psycho killer is the bad guy who gets shot in the end.
Yeah, but here's the connection with Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. They are both abstinent throughout the entire film. They're both sexless, and they both have pent up sexual aggression. Laurie does it defensively, and Michael does it aggressively.
The whole thing, knives and penetration and all this. Yeah. There's probably a million college essays and a million more thoughtful books. For sure. You thought it was so simple. It's like, it's a killer, but this is too tame. There's no gore. And I'm sitting here thinking, it's a killer, but it's a killer obsessed with, I got horny, so now I'm going to stab someone.
Right.
He just is crazy. So, everyone's like, no, Michael Myers is the nature of evil. And I'm thinking, he's just a Looney Tune. He's, So, the good things, I will say, moving on to our second question, what are the good things, what are the bad things? Mm-hmm. And to me, Halloween has a very striking, very great opening, yes. with the iconic shot and then some haunting sort of things at the breakout at the beginning. But mm-hmm. then there's this long stretch of wide takes of people talking where it's supposed to be building suspense. Mm-hmm. And after having watched it over and over again, there's really no suspense there. So it's just enjoying the familiarity of watching the story. But from the second Annie is killed,
mm-hmm.
the movie is so masterfully paced, tight, and haunting, and not okay, and iconic with its score. There's not a frame of the movie from that on that mm-hmm. I have a criticism with. But on the flip side, the movie's not perfect. It was made on a shoestring budget. I just watched the thing on 4K. Mm-hmm. You can actually tell some of the leaves on the ground are painted. It's a little bit mm-hmm. absurd.
Yeah.
So, little weird things like that. It's the grayed out the top of the thing because it was in the middle of summer. Young Michael's head from his POV is tall enough that he has to peek from under a door frame. Mm-hmm. So this 3.5-foot kid is actually 5 feet because the cameraman was, mm-hmm. I don't know. There's just little weird things. Michael, by the way, only walks slow once when he's not actually sneaking around. Mm-hmm. And it's when Laurie is running from to the Doyle house from the Wallaces. Mm-hmm. It's the only time in the movie that he's not trying to sneak and not let someone know.
Yeah. And
he still moves slow.
Yeah. It's just something that I never noticed before is how well the movie tries to dehumanize Michael to the point where you never actually hear his full name throughout the entire film. He's called Michael once, and then after that, Loomis refers to him as he, him, or it, or just the evil. Laurie and Tommy Doyle refers to him as the boogeyman. He's never humanized after his initial killing as a kid, besides his parents saying Michael. So.
Just a throwaway name.
Mm-hmm.
Because they wanted to have a creepy, stalking killer grow up to be a faceless embodiment of evil.
Mm-hmm.
And underneath of that is just the meat and flesh of a man, but that's not what he is. He is that shape.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here worried every year, am I eventually going to grow out of this and have it feel dated? And every time, the end of that movie is such a ride.
Oh, yeah. I honestly can't think of anything that I don't like about Halloween 1.
Yeah.
For the budget, it's on, I think it's a damn near perfect movie, but eh.
So when would you watch it again?
Any time the moment strikes.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, I feel like it has to be cool outside. I don't know why. That's
mm-hmm.
a weird thing. But, yeah. So, Halloween 2.
God.
1981. More of the Night He Came
mm-hmm.
Home. When did you first see this?
Much older. And I found it incredibly boring. It's also the one that that John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, the people who wrote the first movie, wanted to make the least because it's just more of the same, and John Carpenter to his own saying, hates just making the same thing over and over again. He attributes a lot of the faults to the movie on him, citing a lot of late nights, not knowing where to go with the story because he was done with the story, and a lot of beer drinking to get through the script.
They wouldn't let him do the anthology thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Halloween 1 was originally called something like The Babysitter Murders.
Yes, it was.
But once they had decided on Halloween, he had it in his head, the idea that success would let them continue and every year make a Halloween movie that would be an anthology. And obviously that wouldn't happen until what we're going to talk about next. But I like Halloween 2. There's a pacing there. There's a more deadly sort of viciousness there. There's this bright red blood. And even though you have to deal with two people being dumb enough to slip in it and hit their heads, I mean, it's still effective.
Yeah.
The makeup effects of the deaths work. When I first saw this, I was an adult already. And I just knew the expectations, like, going into it. Michael Myers' head looks weird. It's the same mask, but it's a different actor, so it got swollen up.
Yeah.
Laurie Strode is wearing a wig the whole time, so I can't unsee that.
She's a very different character than she is in Halloween 1.
Well, she's drugged.
Yeah. She's drugged and confined to a hospital for, like, half the film.
Yeah, there's really nothing to stop her from being exactly who she is, cowering at the end, asking if that was the boogeyman.
Right. As much as I'm not a big fan of Halloween 2, I do think I do like a lot of the aspects, a lot of things about it. I like how Dr. Loomis's attitude goes from, I'm just trying to stop Michael before he's killed again, to
kill him.
He's now a threat. Just fucking kill him.
You see someone like that? Yeah. Kill him. Ben Tramer, sucks that he died. See you, Ben. And the POV shot of Michael.
Yes.
Going around.
The cinematography I still really liked about it. Like it visually matches, I think, with the original Halloween. And I like how ruthless Michael Myers still is throughout it. Back when I first saw it, I already knew about the twist of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers being brother and sister, so I didn't have any kind of like reservations about that being like a negative thing. But the more I grow to appreciate Halloween 1, the more I like Michael Myers as this like aimless killing machine with no motive, and Halloween 2 kind of strips that away and makes him a slasher with a sister fetish.
Fetish is sexual.
Sister complex.
But hey, maybe he's just a crazy guy who thinks sexual means kill.
No, we could do it for that already, but yeah.
Look, it's not perfect, and the creators have their own gripes with it and whatnot, but it is like a more vicious Michael Myers, and people tend to favor that. You know, the original Michael, it's a weird mix of like, it's horrific and bizarre what he's doing. You
get less of a playful, calculating Michael Myers and more of a vicious one in 2.
Yep. And then ever since then, nobody's been able to really balance that again. Right. You could maybe in 2018, but when would you watch Halloween 2 again?
I can see myself watching it at around Halloween time if I'm just like going through the series. There's not a whole lot in there that I don't like. It's just I think I have some pacing issues with it, where the movie feels kind of like slow in the beginning, and then it kind of like ramps up at the end. But it's a movie I can see myself going back to watch time and time again, especially around Halloween.
You know, I see myself watching this again. Yeah, I'm hooked into the mood. I've already watched two of the other ones, and it's just there. But it's not super high on my list of ones that I would go to, which is a ranking. So I lose today's episode.
Well, let's move on to Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
When did you first see Halloween 3?
This year, I think. I think it was this year. Yep. Back in the beginning of this year, I got the 4K on Scream Factory. It's the one that I avoided the longest because it didn't have Michael Myers in it, and I wanted to see Michael Myers. I'm one of those people. I was one of those people. So, you know. But the more the more in the films I got, the more I wanted to see what's this weird idea that this person had. And this film went through several rewrites. The first writer went through it, John Carpenter, and I forget his name, Tony Wallace or something. His last name was Wallace.
Tommy Lee Wallace.
The
director.
Yeah. They went through his script. They liked a lot of what he wrote, but they had some problems with it. He wouldn't hear anything about the script, so John Carpenter said, okay, well, I'm just going to do a write of this script. Then Tommy Lee Wallace had problems with John Carpenter's script, so he wrote a run-through of that. So the movie we eventually got was basically an amalgamation of their 3 scripts.
Yeah.
The first writer hated that they went back and touched up his script so much that he wanted his name removed completely from the project. And John Carpenter's name was never attached to it to begin with as a writer, so the only one who got full writing credits was Tony Lee Wallace, who fully... Tommy Lee Wallace, who fully admits that that's a very misleading credit.
Yeah.
It's one of the weirdest and surreal Halloween films that I've seen, and it's
bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have admiration for it in the same way that I have admiration for Halloween Ends, where it's so different from what the franchise normally does that I kind of like the risk-taking aspect of it.
I first saw this a few years back now. I found a box set. I was just like getting more into horror than I had been. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, there's a box set that has like all the Michael Myers movies. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And I knew Halloween. I've heard ever since I was a kid, Season of the Witch is the one that everyone says is bad because it doesn't have Michael Myers in it. Mm-hmm. And so I knew I was getting into something completely different. And I even had heard of like Silver Shamrock. In fact, if I remember right, there's this infamous list of something that played on cable of like top 100 scariest movie moments of all time from like the early 2000s or something like that. Uh-huh. And, you know, the child putting on the mask and their head becoming bugs.
Yes.
Was on that list somewhere. So I knew, and then I watched it, and then I thought, what the hell did I watch? And then I got the absolute best experience I could possibly have hoped for rewatching this for an article to write. Mm-hmm. And my wife did not know, despite us talking for a long time, that Michael Myers was not in this. She was completely unprepared. Now, this here is what the VHS would typically have looked like at Blockbuster.
Yeah.
That cover is what you're used to seeing.
Yes.
And she kind of recognized it. She kind of knew it was going on. It was weird that we'd had so many conversations and she had not known. Mm-hmm. And she kept saying, what the fuck am I watching? Over and over again till it was over. It was so bonkers. I love everything in this movie that comes up short. Mm-hmm. I feel like it makes up for in special effects and absolute insanity.
Yes.
For one, every character in the movie wants to bang Tom Atkins. I don't know what the writers and director have for Tom Atkins, but you know, John Carpenter's one of the writers, and he made Jamie Lee Curtis sleep with him in The Fog. And Tom Atkins, like, on paper, is a horrible person in this movie.
Oh yeah, complete womanizer.
No, he has a wife and kids, and he sees a pretty woman, and he's a doctor who has a job to do, and is like, you know what? What you're saying does sound weird, and leaves his whole life behind for an undisclosed amount of time to go explore whatever this is. Mm-hmm. If that is not the most hilarious premise for a hero to be like, let's go on a journey, I don't know what is.
Yeah, let's make a horror whodunit, a horror whodunit procedural, and have a doctor be the detective.
A doctor who does not give a crap about anything. That's what fascinates me so much about Halloween Ends coming out. Mm-hmm. Is people? It's a bunch of people annoyed that they're not getting what they wanted from Halloween 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. And then finding just weird justification for being angry because they can't find real justification for it.
Right.
It's like, what did you expect? You went to go see a movie called Season of the Witch, and it was from like Slasher Century, and like you know,
they're almost telegraphing that, hey, Michael Myers is not in this movie. It's a movie called Season of the Witch. Michael Myers has never been a witch.
Yep. To the point where I think they almost pushed to have it just called Season of the Witch, but I don't remember for sure if that was a thing. But what kind of behind the scenes stuff? What did you pull? What I want to know what they write about this when they're trying to write about the legacy of the Michael Myers franchise.
Basically that John Carpenter, I like most of the stuff that I could read on this one. We already knew. It's John Carpenter wanting to do something different from the typical Halloween franchise, because he's already tapped out with the Michael Myers story, because he's done with it. He's told it twice now. He doesn't want to do it anymore. And it just wants to be creative and do stuff and do different and interesting things with the franchise, to the point where the writer, they had a script for the fourth one back when back when John Carpenter was still attached to that one. The writer was going to make it a psychological ghost story about the Shape, and have the story follow Tommy Doyle and Lindsay as your two protagonists, and they were in talks with Joe Dante to direct that one, but the Akkad family said no, has to be like the original one, and at that point John Carpenter just said, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna sell my stocks in this, and you can have it. I'm not going to be attached to this anymore. So
So what would make you come back and watch Season of the Witch again?
The gore effects and the imagery alone. Like, the image of that little kid's head turning to bugs is seared into my brain. And I kind of got spoiled on that image long ago when I was looking up stuff, and when I saw that image, I was like, wow, that looks like a John Carpenter film. It's shot like one, it's colored like one. Did John Carpenter really? Did he really not direct this? I got to see this movie, and it, weirdly enough, despite it not being directed by John Carpenter and by Tommy Lee Wallace, it kind of feels like a John Carpenter film.
But here's the thing: it was scored by him, and I think it was edited to his score. Okay. So I think his influence is a little bit farther than just music on that.
Probably.
To me, the one that always stands out for some reason, a lot of people point to the woman who gets her face blown up in bed. Also, like, along with the kid. It's that one with the nose. It feels so real. The nose crunch bit. Like,
right.
It's just, to me, I think, honestly, the gore effects could be the best in the series. A lot of people are a huge fan of what people are doing with the David Gordon Green trilogy, and I think they do a great job. But so much of their stuff make human bodies just feel like jiggly balloon popping stuff with stuff in it. And this is an era where things felt like crunchy and different and
tangible.
So yeah, this is one I will come back to whenever I'm not irritated by the song.
Right.
So, Halloween 4.
I've already gone in.
The start of the Thorn trilogy.
The Thorn trilogy that was never meant to be. Was not in the original script. It was not the director's original intention.
None of them. Nobody knew until the sixth movie what it was going to be. Then they made the sixth movie. Then they completely redid the sixth movie so it wasn't what they decided it should be. The trilogy that fought to not be a trilogy.
Right. The writer and director of 4, or one of them, actively tried to make Michael as grounded and human as possible, to the point where every action he takes has a meaning behind it. He kills the mechanic to get his coveralls. He takes out the telephone line, so there's no telephone, so there's no way to call Haddonfield. When he throws the electrician into the into the circuit board to take out all the power in Haddonfield. Like, everything has a purpose, and he's not meant to be supernatural. He doesn't take any actual, like, fatal damages until, like, the very end, where the director said, no, he's supposed to be dead. Yeah.
Which is kind of a mistake on the director's part, because it's canon to the first movie where he gets shot off of a building and lives.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of hard at that point to say, well, if you pay attention in my movie, these rules are clear, when it's like, okay, but you're a sequel that has a bunch of other things that have happened to him, you know? Yeah. Like, infamously, Loomis comes back after the end of Halloween 2, where Michael was supposed to die the first time. He blows up an entire room full of oxygen tanks with just him and Michael in the room. And he's got, like, a burn here and on this hand.
Yeah.
And I imagine it's supposed to be a burn all up the side of his body. But I really doubt that that's like, you know, they say in the 6th one, he's done continually extensive reconstructive surgeries to make the scarring less and less.
Yeah.
But like, you have to justify it because it's so silly how little damage it ultimately ends up being comparative to what happens. I don't want to, you know,
Right.
The makeup team I thought was great for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
To me, Halloween 4 is Halloween 1 with a budget. So that changes the ending to having like a police response.
Yeah.
And so you go back to the idea of a babysitter and a girl, but with a lot more of a focus on the girl who's extremely talented. Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd, I think, is a hallmark of this franchise that deserves as much credit as Jamie Lee Curtis or anyone else.
Yeah. I don't know, though. Maybe it's a me thing. It's one of the Halloween movies, I think, besides Halloween 5, that I'm usually the least excited to come back to. There are aspects of it that I really like, though. Like there are some nice kills. Michael Myers has changed a lot. Like I'm based on the first Halloween. I'm used to him being like this tall and like lean, slender kind of person. And in Halloween 4, he's kind of like buff and stocky. And he looks a lot more like Jason.
And then he's got that glossy mask with the really prominent eyebrows, so he looks kind of like he has this face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say that I like that mask better than the Halloween 5 mask, which I don't know if this is true, but it looks. I think they molded that mask off of one of the teenagers that dies, because I like the boyfriend with the leather jacket. I'm looking at his face, and it looks
named Michael,
and it looks exactly like the Michael Myers mask in that movie.
Yeah, they didn't. As far as I remember from the thing, that actually is one of the masks from Halloween 4. The masks have their whole own history you can track across the special features of these. The one from Halloween 4 is one of the masks from Halloween 1, but it had been 78 to 79, 80, 81. It had been 4 years since they had been filming, and they got one cracked one that wasn't painted right out of the back end to use it, right?
Okay. Then
Halloween 4 is the 10th year anniversary of the original after that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they have to make a whole new mask, and so they get this their own look to it, and it's their own preference. But even in that, they were making so many different versions, and then infamously, they accidentally ordered a box of them that were pink with blonde hair, and one of them ended up used in a shot in the movie where he attacks Loomis at the school.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, Michael Myers 5. So,
I think this is my least favorite out of all of them. They ruined the ending of Halloween 4, which was
that twist from 4.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons that movie stands up to me, like in the rankings of things.
Yeah, no.
And then they're just like, no. Yes, she's linked to him, but she's just not even going to speak. The character that everyone liked, she just won't speak. That other character everyone liked, let's kill her. Let's have her annoying friend be the protagonist, then kill her too.
The foster mother that she killed at the end of 4, she's not actually dead. She just got wounded, so she's still alive. Like, to take away all meaning that had,
and then just completely, Michael Myers' house is a completely different house than it has been for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then Michael decides to shed a tear on the 5th installment in a franchise where it's his 4th appearance, and we're supposed to be like, what? Like, aw, he feels for his what?
I mean, exactly. The director wanted to humanize Michael Myers a bit because, in this movie, he still has a bit of a soul left, and Jamie's the one that can save his soul from total damnation and darkness, and just, no.
But then he didn't do that, though. Then he didn't do that, though, where he didn't...
Supposedly a lot of the stuff that led towards that ended up on the cutting room floor to the point where it was like just like littered with cut content that the director wanted, but the Akkad family didn't want. But just that idea is so disconnected from anything that Michael Myers has been before. It's just jarring.
Yeah. Just if you're gonna greenlight a project where someone's going in a weird direction you're not sure about, you already greenlit the project. Just let the person go in the weird direction so at least you have a complete product.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that's why I really like Halloween 6.
I thought I was going to hate this movie. Turns out I really liked it. All problems aside, it has a very, very Halloween atmosphere to it. Not just in the it's a Halloween movie sense, but in like a movie that I would want to watch during Halloween. It's both those things.
I love the lead actress.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Rudd is trying to be so serious that it's adorable.
It comes he comes off as a creepy stalker guy, like for half the movie.
If you watch this in order from producer's cut to the theatrical cut,
mm-hmm.
you'll actually see him. Yeah, he's like a little creepy, like he's disarming or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see him stay obsessed with the runes and things.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see him stay a little creepy. And then you see him go insane. Where he's like, and like banging the thing on the door and like sweating and freaking out. And then he finally just beats Michael Myers to green jellied blood death. Like
the way that he drops the pipes, like
there's actually a weird arc for Paul Rudd by watching both versions of the movie in order.
Right. I actually watched the theatrical cut first because that's the version that most people would have seen first, and then I saw the producer's cut. But oh god, yeah, he's so not what I was expecting that it caught me off guard. It was like, like when I think of Paul Rudd, I think of Paul Rudd from Wet Hot American Summer, the Paul Rudd from Ant-Man, the Paul Rudd from Paul Rudd and Netflix, where he's talking with Paul Rudd. It's weird. Like that's right. Like that's the persona that I expect from Paul Rudd being in a movie, and it's the exact opposite of that.
I disagree. I feel like if you think of Paul Rudd from Wet Hot American Summer, think of the scenes where he's hitting on the girl that doesn't want to be with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, don't you want to? Like this guy is a little less, because he's not actually trying to hit on any girl. He's
mm-hmm.
looking through his viewfinder and he sees that she's there.
Mm-hmm.
She sees him as spying on him,
mm-hmm.
but that's not what he's doing. He's like, no, the runes. It's such a campy idea to take the kid from the first Halloween and age him into Paul Rudd and have him be like, Michael's not done in Haddonfield. He's coming back.
Yeah.
It's hilarious because you know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So you know the work he's doing to be this for a movie. And I think they approached him about coming back to play Tommy Doyle in Kills.
Uh-huh.
And he declined respectfully. And I really wish he had done it.
After seeing 6, I do too.
So that he got to do a different kind of take, but still try and up the seriousness. I just feel like
maybe
I just will watch anything Paul Rudd does, and I think this is just more. Even if it's not good, this is just more of what he can do.
Like even like his like this was shot in 95 or in 94 was released in 95. Even Paul Rudd's clothing style and the way he looks, it looks like 90s boy band Paul Rudd. Like
he looks like a plainclothes Power Ranger.
Which is funny because the kid in this movie is constantly playing with the Power Ranger, specifically the Red Ranger.
Yeah. Yeah. So the idea here is that they came up with an explanation for the second time. First is he's killing his family.
Mm-hmm.
For the second time, they came up with an explanation for what he is.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an uncomfortable thing that he made a baby with Jamie. It's like, why did they have to do that? I don't like that. But if you take that out of the equation, and if you had just had Jamie escape and just let Jamie be the kid that they're coming for, like Jamie escapes, makes it to the family that's living in the house. Oh, look at that. You get to have the same movie, but you get to keep your actress and do all that. Whatever.
Yeah.
Point is, you have this rune thing. You have this explanation, this thing that freezes Michael and is really odd, but it's complete. It ties back to the first movie. It really does try and be like, all right, we have a wild mess here because we keep going. So let's try and give this bizarre button to explain. Whenever we come back, it's going to be because of something mystical that people can't control, and Michael Myers will come back.
The whole Jamie thing is just even weird. Like, the way they portray Jamie in this, she's a full-grown adult, but if you track the age, in Halloween 5, she's 9 years old. This is 6 years later, she's 15.
Yeah. See, I buy that. I don't think she looked too much older than like 17, 18, 19. Especially with the other 20-year-olds that they get to play the teenagers in these movies.
She looked in her 20s to me, but...
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, so did the other teenagers. Like,
yeah.
Halloween 6, the weird thing about it is that the Weinstein Company was in the mix after all that time waiting.
Yeah.
They're responsible for the theatrical cut. With the added gore, with the added bits,
Yeah.
And some things cut out that make certain scenes dysfunctional. I think the theatrical cut is a little more vicious and a little more, polished. But I think the theatrical cut, I mean, it literally does not have the score that's trying to telegraph it's in the 90s. It's replaced with music that's more traditional to Halloween. It is not as polished visually, but it still feels so much like Fall and Halloween.
Yeah.
And it sticks to a story that concludes.
Yeah.
So there are pieces here and there that I would pick and choose from both versions. And that's why I love people on YouTube like Drum Dums, who has his cut of Halloween 6 that it's like a life's mission of mine is to get to watch it. Because he's a diehard fan who Halloween 4 was the first Halloween movie he ever saw when it was released in theaters. And he's just been passionate about it because the Thorn trilogy is like when he got into Michael Myers and horror and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's kind of like how like I was introduced to my favorite Marvel character Daredevil with the Ben Affleck movie. So no matter what happens, that movie's going to have a weird soft spot with all its flaws in it. And that also has a director's cut that's pretty drastically different from the theatrical cut.
Oh, yeah.
You just watched 6 for the first time, yesterday?
No, today. Both
today.
Cuts. Both cuts. Back to back.
So,
I saw everything that was different. So, the first, the editing at the beginning of the producer's cut was a lot quicker paced. There was a lot more dragging out with the theatrical version in the beginning. Like, I wasn't expecting 2 different voiceovers for the 2 different cuts. With the producer's cut, it's Donald Pleasance. With the theatrical, it's Paul Rudd. How Jamie dies in both films is drastically different. A much more gruesome death in the theatrical one, but a much lamer one, for lack of a better term, in the producer's cut.
There's no winning when they were going to kill that character off without letting the actress come back.
I was like, once I saw that she was fighting for her life in the producer's cut, I was hoping, oh, is she going to wake up and is she going to come back and fight Michael Myers alongside Paul Rudd? I would love to see that. No, she gets shot in the fucking head in her sleep. I hate that. But no, I really enjoyed Halloween 6. I can easily see myself coming back to watch this, like, almost as much as Halloween 1.
4, 5, and 6, regardless of how justified they are as a trilogy, feel like a package deal where you get a certain flavor of the original from 4.
Yeah.
One that works in the background for 5. And then a 6 that has Paul Rudd and all these interesting ideas, successful or not. It ends. It's a little wrapped up trilogy that ends, just like David Gordon Green now has a little wrapped up trilogy that ends. Only trick is with 4, 5, and 6, 1 and 2 are canon. With David Gordon Green's trilogy, only number 1 is canon.
But like similar to the Thorn trilogy, you have Halloween 2018, which is a crowd pleaser. Everyone most people tend to like. You have a background movie with Halloween Kills and Halloween 5, where the kills are a bit more gruesome, but that's about it. And then an interesting concept for the final film.
To wrap up my final thoughts on it, this is where you see patterns emerge, and this is why I wanted to talk about these. Halloween 1 is about Michael coming back to Haddonfield and killing babysitters, this shape coming to town and killing babysitters, and Laurie Strode, like, as an innocent victim, gets caught in the center of it.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween 2 is about Laurie Strode being incapacitated in a hospital until Michael Myers, ends up being drawn to her, and then they have a face-off with Donald Pleasance.
Mm-hmm.
And then Donald Pleasance, the only person, close to Laurie that's helping this, dies at the very end.
Yeah.
And then Halloween 3, they tried to jump off and go their own way and try something different, and it got a lot of negative backlash.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween 4, you go back to the tradition of Halloween 1, Michael Myers makes his way back to Haddonfield, and yes, he's going for family, but everyone else is the victim. 5, you dig in harder on that premise, and you have him getting more and more violent, where the main relationship with Laurie Strode is incapacitated and can't speak for most of the movie, and gradually gets things together, and then the person closest to her friend Tina, dies.
Right.
And then the third one tries to take a interesting and unique perspective and goes off the rails with it and gets a lot of backlash and it gets canceled. Halloween 2018 goes back to the format of the original, brings Laurie Strode into it, replicates a lot of beats from 1 and 4, and it's just about the shape comes back to Haddonfield, and Laurie Strode is an innocent who gets put into position. Halloween Kills, he gets more violent. Laurie Strode's in a hospital bed, incapacitated until someone close to her is killed in the end, and then ends, shoots off in its own direction, and a bunch of people are disappointed.
Yeah. This is why I
What the hell?
This is why I really appreciate Jay's opening to his to the Red Letter Media.
That was fantastic. Yeah, the people disappointed since this one. But I just think, 1, 2, and 3 are not a trilogy of Halloween.
No.
But it's so weird that pattern 1, 2, and 3 is repeated by 4, 5, and 6. And then you have 7. And then Resurrections is the only movie that does not have to do with Laurie Strode or her family. And that, nobody liked that. So it's like, let's try and end it. Oh, that worked. Let's try and continue. Nobody liked that. Let's reboot it. Not sure about that. Let's let Broad Zombie do the movie he wanted to make. Wow, nobody liked that. You know what? Let's just go back and redo the thing we've done twice before. And yet, there's definitely some stuff in these thematically that is original, even if they are beating you over the head with it like a stick.
Sure.
But it's just worth noting that historically there is a pattern to this, and it's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So that's my closing thoughts. Is just I think at this point people know what they're gonna get out of this franchise. I don't think there's a lot of questions left.
Right. It's just, what can you do different now? And how well can you how well can you execute it, or can you do anything different? Like I think is what you were about to say. But yeah.
So what are your thoughts summing up?
Summing up the first 6 films, I think you hit the nail pretty well on the head. The first 2 is an iconic Halloween classic that had a lot of success, that launched Halloween 2, that had a little bit less success, and then you see a pattern go on through the years as things go by. The more and more I watch these movies, the more that I realize the further the concept goes, into them trying to do something different, the more I tend to like it. I don't know why. Like Halloween 3, I like is like my second favorite to Halloween 1. Halloween 6, which a lot of people don't like because of how off the rails it goes, I find very entertaining. Halloween Ends, which a lot of people don't like because it's not Michael Myers stabbing people, I really like because it's an interesting concept, and you get like a spiritual successor to Christine. So it's a weird thing about me that the further away you get from the central idea of that first Halloween movie, the more I like these other movies.
So why do we watch Halloween year after year?
Because horror is fun and imaginative, and it lets you express things that you can't otherwise in other film.
To me, yeah, year after year, horror does that. Exactly what you said. And Michael Myers is just one of the iconic faces of horror that lets you dip yourself into an unsafe situation from your safe couch, wonder if there is really anyone creeping around outside your windows, and just, hug a little tight and hopefully have a safe experience going through something thrilling. And it has that flavor of the fall atmosphere and the pumpkins and Halloween. And it's It's just something iconic that persists through all of these, the good, the bad, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a reason it lasts, and I think that about wraps up our coverage of it. So I think I'm really excited in years the future to explore maybe different franchises. I think we've talked about Friday the 13th a little bit before, but we obviously have that, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
if things
Chucky.
If things go well next year and rumors pan out to be true, we could be talking about the Exorcist franchise. Maybe,
boy.
Maybe not the franchise, but like...
Dude, I've now seen Exorcist 1, 2, 3, the beginning, and the first few episodes of the television show.
I've only seen episodes. I've only seen Exorcist 1 and 3.
And of course, David Gordon Green is getting a trilogy of Exorcist movies. And he's already talked about how the approach to that kind of horror versus this kind of horror is different. And I like some of what he said. And I'm not entitled to anything from him. Yeah. I didn't go make these movies, he did. So, yeah. But in the meantime, we're going to be moving into a whole new season, talking about different things. I usually am more part of the camp that calls November Noir-vember. I'm looking forward to seeing the Banshees of Inisherin. And so, hopefully we'll get into some more fun things and move out throughout the year. And just thank you all for listening and joining us for Halloween. Remember, we are This Film Not Rated. TFNRCMEL is our handle on Twitter. I'm Eric, and you can follow me at High Contrast FLM.
And I am Curtis. You can find me at 90s Gamer 407. And on Twitch at American_tainment.
And remember, we're part of a branch, and you can go find the Now Showing podcast, the Devi Delight following football season. You can just head on over to the musiccitydrive-in.com and poke around, because I guarantee you're going to find something that's going to make you feel like, yeah, I like that. So, yeah. Curtis, do you have anything to take us out? Anything else you want to say?
Oh, God.
You are literally the person in my life that introduced me to horror as something to have fun with.
Horror's great. Just don't mimic what you see on screen. It's a good way to get arrested.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Don't. Yep. Cool. Oh boy.